Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate, HYPHENATE, and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too. We'd like to thank our sponsor, iZotope, the absolute leaders in intuitively designed plugins for audio restoration, mixing, and mastering. At iZotope.com, you'll find a plethora of tools and suites that will enhance your audio production, whether it's voice, video, podcast, or a full production recording session. Check out the industry-standard audio repair tool, RX11, or the multi-tool mixer plugin, Neutron 5, or the powerful Ozone 11 mastering suite, plus tons more. Go to iZotope.com and use the code FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. That's FRET10 to get 10% off at checkout. And again, the website is iZotope.com, IZOTOPE.com.
I've had the same Les Paul since I was 14. I bought it about a month before Appetite for Destruction broke and paid $750 for it, which would have been double a month later.
What's happening? Thank you so much for tuning in to Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. This is our show for Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Hope everybody's doing good, staying warm in the winter months. If you are in a place that is cold, California has dropped well below our normal 72 degrees. We might be somewhere in the low 60s here. So we are just, doing everything we can, burning wood, stoves, hoping not to catch anything else on fire. I jest, of course. Today's show, I'm very honored and very lucky to welcome my special guest, Reg Bloor. Reg is an experimental guitar player, and she is the archivist of the Glenn Branca music catalog. And I saw recently that she's running a Kickstarter for Glenn's Symphony No. 4. To be released. And there's a great Kickstarter. It's in the link in the show notes here. But you can go support it. I think they have reached part way where they're trying to get to, but you can always support it, and it's also, a way to buy the piece. The record label is called System Neutralizers. And she's going to be putting it out there. It's from a live performance that they held in Zurich in 1983, and it's going to be digitally cleaned up and remastered to sound as good as it can. I think it was. She talks about it in the interview, but it was from a fan audience tape. And it's the only performance that's been recorded of this piece. So it's going to be super awesome. So I saw that she had that, and I reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to talk about the project and is everything else you're up to? And things are going on. So, she has so much great stuff going on. We'll hear about it here, but you can follow her on Instagram. It's Reg, REG_Bloor, BLOOR. And that's where you can see all the things, you can get links to the Kickstarter there as well as in the show notes below. And then you can also find her on Bandcamp, regbloor.bandcamp.com. You can go to regbloor.com. That's the website where she has all the stuff listed there. And what else? Where else are the good links? There's also glennbranca.com, GLENNBRANCA.com. I say Branca, maybe it's Branca. I could be wrong. But I first met Reg when I volunteered for the 100 Guitars performance. This was probably in 2006, right at the beginning of No Age stuff. I think we had we had just printed our first T-shirts, or we were thinking about printing shirts because we just started playing, sort of at the end of the year before. So we probably were in our infancy of No Age, maybe within the first 3 to 4 months. And Dean's mom had a silkscreen shop, so we could always, screen shirts on demand. Whenever Dean could get down there, or his brother could go and pull the some shirts. So we had these black and white ones. It was kind of like a static fills before the rainbow shirts existed yet. I don't know if they were part of it. But yeah, I remember Dean that morning got me the shirt. He's like, wear this shirt on stage. I was so excited. I was one of 100 people up on this Walt Disney Concert Hall stage, but I remember it so fondly. I mean, I was 25 years old, and it was, I just signed up. I just it just wasn't like I wasn't any huge hard process to get into. Reg will talk about it in the interview, but it was so cool. It was great to meet Glenn, and Watt was part of it. Paige Hamilton from Helmet was part of it. So many other friends, the bass player, Steve Kim, Chris Westman. It was just cool. It was just such a fun, cool, weird experiment to get to be part of, and just playing this giant symphony of guitars. It really blew my mind, at that young age, and kind of just starting all the No Age stuff and sort of figure okay, wow, what a cool just sort of entry point into the world of experimental music, but being presented in such a respectable, interesting, cool way as a Walt Disney Concert Hall sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely stands out in my mind as this big thing. It was fun to have my mom come to see me play at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. It felt like a proper kind of performance. Oh, look at me! I'm in my 20s playing noisy guitar, and see, it's legitimate. It's legitimate. It's not just in weird garages and warehouses. So yeah, that was really fun. And then years later, I was invited to be part of a smaller group of guitarists. I think it was 7 guitarists, or maybe 8 guitarists. In New York, we performed another Glenn piece, and that was really fun. That was at the Masons Lodge in New York City, and it was great. I got to go out there, and we, again, the rehearsals are sort of some of the funnest parts of this whole thing. We spent 2 or 3 days just rehearsing. And so many great guitar players. I was sitting next to Mick Barr from Orthrealm and Quixotic and a million other bands, and just looking at like Mick, what am I supposed to play here? I was definitely not, this is over my head in some kind of composing circles and reading music quickly circles. But I made enough chicken scratch notes for myself to figure out where my fingers should be, and all the notes on the guitar are tuned to a B, I think is where my range was. And so really, if I just had the fret numbers of where to be, what note represented which fret, and then you're just kind of borrowing it. So no great guitar gymnastics needed with fancy finger work, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun to get to perform 2 pieces with Glenn and Reg and the whole crew there. So definitely something I feel proud of my involvement in, and unfortunately Glenn would pass shortly after that performance, and it just was a huge blow, a huge shock. What a just genius mind, and just such a hard, sad loss. I think there was still so much more music to come from him, and the mind only boggles at what else could be done. But there is a huge, I shouldn't say huge, but there is documented music that he's written and that's been recorded, and there's more to come, it sounds like. I think Reg has some other pieces as well. So go to the Kickstarter, and it's you can find the link on Reg's Instagram. That's Reg, REG_Bloor, BLOOR. And you can get to that to see the release of Glenn Branca's Symphony No. 4, Physics. Much anticipated release of long lost recording. So go donate, and you also, I think you're also just buying the piece. I think through backing the project, I think you do get a copy of the CD when it comes out. I think that's sort of how it works. So yeah, go support independent music, right? And experimental musicians. That's what we're all doing. yeah, it won't be. Oh yeah, it won't be on a vinyl release. It's too long. Yeah, we're talking about that. I'm just reading through here. The raising funds to have the recordings cleaned up and release it digitally on CD in 2026. So yeah, you can be part of bringing long lost music to the public. Go support cool, experimental, weird guitar music, right? Why not? That's what we're all here to do in life. Thank you, Reg, again for coming on, and thank you everybody for tuning in. If you like this kind of thing, tell your friends. You can go to my Instagram at Randy S. Randall to see more episodes of this. And then what? Oh, you can write me hyphenatehalftime@gmail.com. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Hyphenatehalftime@gmail.com. And send me your cool Kickstarters. Send me your cool bands. I want to hear what's going on. I think I got another submission from Scared Little Toaster. We'll play them on the halftime show on Monday. And yeah, keep in touch. Let me know what's happening out there. And yeah, like I said, tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to spread, the message of the podcast. Person to person, one person at a time. It's like a big daisy chain letter. Let everybody know that this is a fun podcast to listen to, and then we'll grow the audience that way, right? That sounds fun. Easy peasy. All right. Without further ado, here is my interview with the one and only Reg Bloor. Hey, Reg. Thanks so much for coming on Hyphenate. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming. It's great. Yeah, so there's a Kickstarter going on right now. Tell me a little bit about how the Kickstarter's going and about the project that it's funding.
Well, we're 3/4 of the way there already after a week.
Amazing.
It's a release of Glenn Branca's Symphony No. 4, recorded in Zurich in 1983. There was never a good enough recording of it to release. And a British archivist had sent us like a bootleg that he found that was recorded on a half-broken cassette machine in the audience. So there's like volume swells and all kinds of noise and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But technology finally exists to clean it up. So I've got an engineer friend who thinks she can clean it up, and so I do want to release it, whether it gets perfectly clean or not. But she thinks she can clean it up. So we're working on releasing it on my label, Systems Neutralizers. And you can find it on Kickstarter or from systemsneutralizers.com. You can get the link.
I'll have a link here in the show notes, just down below for everybody listening to this. You can click on the show notes. And then tell me about so had that piece not been recorded in any other format? Was this the only recording that exists of that? Or tell me about the piece in particular.
Yeah, it's the only, I think that there might have been a partial recording of one of the other shows, another live recording. And there was a radio recording of the first 2 movements from that show.
Okay.
But yeah, there was never a studio recording.
And why was that? Was there what was happening around that particular time, or when this piece was being performed?
It was just that there was no funding for it. There was no, opportunity to do it.
Sort of support for that kind of thing. Wow. It's so interesting, what can be done now with the studio work and all of those things. I've done a little bit of remastering for some older demos of things of friends, and it's, you can really pull out some decent sounding stuff from what, would otherwise would have been just kind of, well, it was all recorded on tape really quietly, and there's more hiss than sounds. But now you can really turn it all around. At that time, where do you and Glenn first sort of cross paths?
We first met in 98. I was still living in Boston at the time, and I would come down to New York for shows at the Knitting Factory or Tonic or places like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing a show at the Knitting Factory with Zev, Rudolph Gray, Margaret DeWeiss, and I can't. I should have written this down. And I met him after the show. I dropped a tape of my band in his bag, and then I ordered some. He was selling some books off of his website, and I ordered a few. And I think he forgot who I was. He was picturing, like, I think some cross between Reg Presley from the Trogs and Blank Reg from Max Headroom.
How
Um,
funny.
so a year later, I moved to New York and contacted him. He was like, "Oh, come over." And then when I came over, he remembered me from the show. I was like, "Oh, that's okay." And that's when we hit it off.
That's incredible. Tell me about your journey to music and to guitar, specifically, like where, you mentioned coming from Boston, but where did you first get involved in music? Was it in the punk scene in Boston?
I started playing piano when I was 5 years old, like
Mhm.
most people, I think,
Yeah.
and took lessons for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and then I tried a few other instruments and finally settled on guitar when I was 12. Um, and I originally from Ohio, moved to Connecticut, and then moved to Boston. It wasn't really till I got to Boston, I went there to go to Berkeley, that I was a part of a scene. Yeah, I had a band called
I see.
Twitcher.
And what were some of the inspirations or some of the things that were inspiring you musically for the guitar at that time?
In Boston, or when I was a kid?
Or yeah, when you're first getting started, and then even going into to Berkeley.
When I was a kid, mostly what I had access to was metal, because that's what was around. But I could find hints of weirder stuff, like on Night Flight. They could hear the Residents, but where I lived, I couldn't even find their records. I would just would watch, hoping that they were on. Um, it wasn't really till I got to Boston that I had more access to non-mainstream music.
That's cool. And was sort of what your specific focus was at Berkeley? Was experimental guitar, or what were you sort of working at in that context?
Um, Berkeley teaches mostly jazz.
Okay.
At least they did at the time. This was
Yeah.
a long time ago. But so that's. But I mean, that taught me, a lot of experimental harmony. I mean, they taught it as rules, but jazz was really breaking the rules. And so that kind of sparked my interest in denser harmonies.
And what was the group that you said you had a band at that time? Was that sort of what you were doing? Tell me a little bit about the band and the formation and the players.
Um, I had a band called Twitcher after I left Berkeley. I had a few false starts before then. There's a singer, Sandra Malak, who ended up in World Inferno Friendship Society. That's the band she ended up in. I'm sorry. And Mark White, who was a bass player for lots of different Boston bands, and Michael Knobloch, who is a percussionist. And we got together just through.
And what did that band sound like? Yeah.
We were kind of part of the neo no wave scene of the 90s. We played on bills with Arab on Radar, Flying Glutenbachers, Melt Banana, bands like
Incredible.
that.
How fun is that? Yeah, I saw Melt Banana just played some shows here through Southern California. We played some shows with them in where we played with them in Madison and St. Paul a couple of years back. It was, what a fun band they are.
Great band. Yeah.
Yeah. With what was I going to say? So then from Boston, then moving to New York. I mean, what were I guess I'm just so curious. This is just for my own sort of curiosity. What were the venues like? The kind of the experimental, more kind of harsher venues. Was it a lot of house shows? Or were the proper venues in Boston at that time?
Yeah, a lot of house shows. I lived in a house where I had shows. There was the Middle East upstairs. They would allow experimental stuff. O'Brien's. there were a lot of places that were starting to close, which is one of the reasons we came to New York when the Rat closed and some other places closed. There was a place called Jacques, which was in the basement of a drag bar, which was cool.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think. I was remembering in Boston, we played with this band that made all their own instruments out of metal. I'm spacing on the name of them. This probably would have been around 2007, 2008. Neptune. Okay. Yeah. They were great. It was all homemade or self-made metal instruments. Yeah. They were great. And who was the other great experimental Boston band? Fat Day. Did you ever cross paths with them? They were they were great. They had like a colander they'd wear on the head, or like a bicycle helmet where they'd take a keyboard apart and sort of glue it onto the helmet and play the helmet as an instrument.
Yeah,
we were big fans of Fat Day. There was one record in particular I remember we had on the road. I think we had a cassette of it, and just long van rides, something gets stuck in your head. You're like, okay, put that back on, put that one back in there. Yeah, there was some great Fat Day stuff. Yeah. Boston always reminded me in those early days for us, especially, it was a lot of house shows, and it's always so cold. I mean, we're Southern California kids. We're not built for anything, below 60 degrees. We don't know what to do, but Boston was always very cold in a house somewhere. There was a basement and beer and just try to stay warm. Those early days. And then what was the New York like that you found your? Yeah. Oh man. So tell me about some of the venues and some of the bands you were playing with in New York when you moved down there.
The band kind of fell apart in the process of moving to New York, unfortunately. And I met Glenn pretty much right away. So then I started playing with him. I didn't have a band in New York really until I formed the Paranoid Critical Revolution in 2005. But while we were in Boston, we did come down and play at like ABC No Rio. And but yeah, it wasn't until 2005 that I really started playing a lot in New York.
That sounds cool. Yeah, I think that was sort of around our time. I think our first tour we did was in 2003 when we played in, I want to say we played the Knitting Factory, opening up for bands people actually wanted to see. We were just, we were fortunate to get the opening spot on a good bill from friends, that were in LA, that we knew from LA, and played there. But yeah, Tonic was great also. I remember we played there quite a few times on experimental sort of nights, or the more punkier, sort of noisier nights.
But they never booked us, Tonic.
Tonic? No? Okay.
Yeah.
I was never part of the booking process of it. That was my partner in the band, always did all the bookings. He was better at being cool. I was just good at loading and driving and playing, but being cool was never my job. I felt like somehow the booker. Yeah. And then yeah, you were familiar with Glenn and his work prior, obviously, prior to meeting him and stuff. And then once you met and did you start playing in his groups right away, or what was that process like in terms of his musical output, and where did you sort of find your sort of space in there, or what was he doing musically or creatively at that time? I guess this is late 90s, early aughts.
At the time, the first thing I played on with Glenn was music for an art installation by Tony Auersler, and David Bowie did the vocals. And so that was I was in New York 6 months, and I'm in the studio with David Bowie. This was like
wild.
Yeah. And it was I don't know if you're familiar with Tony's work, but he does these projections. And so he was going to project Bowie's face on these giant orbs. It was going to be shown at Expo 2000. And Glenn did like these sequence basic tracks, and I played guitar over it. And Bowie was reading Tony's cut up poetry. And I was there when Bowie did his takes. They had to hold his head in this apparatus to hold it still, but he did it with good cheer, and
yeah,
he was telling jokes the whole time. It was great. Unfortunately, the budget was cut for Expo
Oh,
2000, so it was never put on. But the recording still exists, and I did find it recently and gave it to Tony. So maybe something will happen, but I don't know.
wow. Oh, that'd be interesting to hear. Yeah, with whatever comes out. I mean, that's sort of the world of that sort of artwork. You're sort of at the behest of, the financiers or the organizations, whoever is paying for it.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then from there, what was he working on his own sort of compositions and pieces? I mean, I'm most familiar with, sort of the early 80s sort of work that he had done.
The first few years I worked with him, every single thing was different. We were doing the first live show I did with him was Symphony number 12 at the Brooklyn Bridge, Anchorage, which was kind of a crazy show because I don't know if you're familiar with the Anchorage, but it's like inside the base of the Brooklyn Bridge.
No.
And it's this big cavernous brick space. And turned out that we brought Wharton Tears to do the sound, but they had their own sound person who turned it up in this big echoey brick room, and it was like ridiculously loud. So that's became kind of an infamous show. And then we did sort of a band that was sometimes just the two of us, sometimes a trio. Before we started doing Symphony number 13 on a regular basis. We did Symphony number 13 in 2001 at the base of the World Trade Center in June of 2001.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
wild.
2006, 2008, that became our regular gig. But
the Symphony number 13.
Yeah. He
okay.
He was he was approached by the Cultural Council to do. They initially wanted a symphony for 200 guitars, but he talked them down to 100. He kind of thought it was. At first, he thought it was kind of ridiculous, but once he heard it, then he realized that he could turn that into his orchestra, because he had been trying to write for orchestra. And so he completely rewrote the piece, and that it's a different piece that we played in 2006 to 2008 than the one we played at the World Trade Center.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the one in Los Angeles. I think that's where we had first met. I mean, I was one of the other, one of the 100 guitar players. Right. For that. I think that was 2006 or 2007 at the Walt Disney Concert Hall.
Yeah, 2006.
2006. Wow. Yeah, that was such a great opportunity. How many of those types of, for 100 guitar performances did y'all do? Was there many throughout that time?
I think there were 10. Okay. And working on trying to do it again next year. No.
Oh, how fun.
We're close, it seems, but can't talk about details, but we're doing it again next year.
But follow this space. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure to follow. That's, it was such an incredible experience. I remember when I saw that the call went out, if you play guitar, and there was really no audition process. I don't know was there a selection process, or what was that, just in terms of putting 100 people together? I think it's like 80 guitars, 20 basses, and then one drummer. But were you involved in that sort of organization and monkey wrangling?
Yeah, I'm the one who dealt with all the players and all the scores and everything. They would contact me, and I would kind of make them jump through some hoops, so I knew they knew how to follow directions.
Okay.
But yeah, you couldn't audition all those people.
Yeah. So walk me through what was that, or how did you come up with a sort of a rubric, or what was it? How would you get submissions? I'm not even really remembering how it happened. I remember hearing about it. I feel like it was like through word of mouth or something. Because again, this was pre-social media days.
Um, well, I put up like a public email address that people could contact me, and then I gave them, they had certain things they had to agree to the schedule, and they had to at least tell me they knew how to read music. We kind of relied on, the prospect of making an ass of yourself in front of 99 other guitar players to weed out people who couldn't read.
Yeah.
But then they'd have to email me at my real address and send certain information. And so I could kind of judge if they did it right, whether they knew how to follow directions. And then I would assign them their parts. But a lot of we didn't put the call out too publicly in the bigger cities because we'd just be inundated. But in each city, there was kind of one person who would have like a big mailing list. In LA, it was Mike Watt.
Oh yeah.
He's great. I think he even had like rehearsals and stuff like on his own for players.
Okay.
And I thought a lot of them came through Mike Watt. But yeah, playing at Walt Disney Concert Hall was a trip and a half.
You know what? My experience was the rehearsals in Burbank at the big, sort of soundstage warehouse was really, there was so much bounce in there that the ability, the swarmingness of, where the dynamics sort of rose and fell. I really, from where I was sitting in the group, there was something very hypnotic about that. And then once we got into the Walt Disney space, it's such a beautifully treated acoustic, sort of temple of amplification for acoustic instruments that I felt I was like, it was great. It was the final performance was amazing, but just in terms of the acoustics, I was like, ooh, this is kind of a deader room in a way. I don't know what your experience or how you reflect back on those, between the rehearsals and the final performance.
I do remember that being kind of a painful sound check.
I mean, the whole thing is, it's a lot of people on stage, but that room is something else.
Yeah.
Big Frank Gehry sort of building. For people who aren't familiar, it's a giant kind of windswept metal exterior, and then in the interior is like some kind of organic spaceship looking thing with a lot of bent wood and sort of, I don't know how you describe what it looks like inside.
Yeah. It's a lot of there's a lot of lumber around, I remember.
Yes, yeah, it's very wooden. It's organic inside in a way, but very like a ship kind of like melting, being in the belly of a giant a wooden ship that's sort of melting around you.
Yeah.
I recall one of the players didn't know much about Glenn, but he was a steel worker who he was in part of the construction of the Walt Disney Concert Hall, and he had brought a book. I think there was a photo book that was done about the making of that building. Yeah. And I think he just wanted to say that I performed in the building that I helped build.
Oh yeah.
And I think he got everybody to sign the book, all the players, because he was just got such a kick out of the idea of having the opportunity to be on stage. So, I mean, there was definitely something very kind of egalitarian or sort of democratic in the way of the players on stage. I mean, in that process of the 10 performances, were there ever people you had to kick out, or were there ever unruly people? I guess I'm just so curious. As a social experiment, that's a lot of guitar players, which are a unique breed unto themselves.
Very few
in small spaces.
Yeah. Very few people cause problems. We really didn't have problems. The only problems we had were like, somebody would rent amps for people and somebody wouldn't pay, but really, we didn't really have too many problems.
That's great. I mean, it would make sense, if you're, it's not a bunch of knuckleheads, trying to get up there. Gosh, that was 20 years ago now. I remember Page Hamilton was sort of sitting in the first chair, or not first chair, but in the front row sort of position. Had you, I think he had worked with Glenn prior to this, to that specific performance. What was the relationship with Page from Helmet?
Yeah, he had played on Symphony No. 6.
Okay.
Which is actually the first one of Glenn's pieces that I heard. Um, and yeah, he still had a great relationship with Glenn. He had just, moved on to success. Yeah.
Was that prior to his involvement with Helmet when he had played on that Symphony No. 6, or where does that fit chronologically?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was at the same time. I'm not exactly sure their chronology.
Okay. Yeah, that was, and then you mentioned Mike Watt, and then did I have that breakdown right? 20 bass players, 80 guitars.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and then with the strings and the, maybe can you sort of talk through, for people who don't really know what that arrangement looks like, and especially, with 100 guitars, but what, maybe talk through how those parts are divided, and sort of was Glenn's, some of his creative thinking around writing for that many guitars, as much as you're able to sort of, provide insight to that. Like, what were the specifics? How were the guitars tuned, and how were the parts arranged, and sort of what is the why of that?
There were 4 sections. The altos were tuned to E, the tenors were tuned to B, and the baritones were tuned to low E, and then the basses were in standard tuning.
And this is all 6 strings, or all, just when you say so for the altos, all 6 strings are the high E string.
No, 3 are high E and 3 are like the middle E, the like D string E.
And then same with the tenors, it's a high B, low B. They're in octaves, but a 3 of each.
Yeah.
And then for the lows, the same, the low E, middle E, low E.
Yeah.
And how did he, what, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess just for people who maybe aren't necessarily familiar with Glenn and his music, I mean, what can you talk around sort of the composition of it a little bit, or what is your insight from playing it and being part of that? Like, what are some of the whys, or what are the effects that happen by writing music like this, or how is this written?
It's basically a play on consonance and dissonance. I mean, all music is, but he would do it to the extreme. He would go from unisons to clusters, and usually some kind of build to a crescendo. As far as details, it's I don't have it in front of me, but he'd used a lot of like polymeters. One group would be playing a pattern of 3, another would be playing a pattern of 4, another would be playing a pattern of 5. That's sort of a minimalist thing. And usually there was some kind of, he didn't use improv, but he would do these sort of conducted volume swells at the end.
Mm-hmm. There's a big cathartic kind of thing. At least that was my sort of take to it. I think I was sort of prone to that in my own, personal guitar playing as well. But there was definitely something there was a hive mind type of feeling, of this sort of catharsis as the piece would grow and swell, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, was that expected or encouraged?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Okay, that's kind of that was the feeling I got, but it was very nonverbal in that kind of way of like, okay, no one told me to calm down, so I'm going to keep going with this until but it would elicit that the music itself would kind of elicit this type of, intensity. I don't know what the classical term forte, or so, playing with intensity.
Yeah.
It's really something. I mean, in terms of but I guess how do I say it? In writing or composing for 100 guitars versus, the smaller, like he had sextets, right? Or like octets, like groups of 6 and 8.
Yeah.
For other groups.
He had been writing, Symphony No. 12 was for 9 guitars. And the first version of Symphony No. 13 was written like a 9 guitar piece.
Okay.
Because he didn't think it would be as transparent as it actually was.
I guess that's kind of what I was going to ask is, when you get 100 guitar or, these 80 sort of, guitar players up there, would he like almost put it in halftime or sort of, truncate it or simplify it in some ways just to facilitate such a large group?
No, he
Okay.
had in the original version, but he didn't in the second version. If you recall, it was a bit of a challenging piece to play.
Yeah.
But it's not out of bounds if you know how to read, and I think that's what made it so compelling. We actually had over those 2 years, we actually had a core group of people, maybe 10 or 15 people that would actually travel around to play with us who wanted to play it again. And partially because the challenge of it, it's like, oh, I think I can do it better. Let's, you know, and so yeah, they would travel around with us, and well, not with us, but
Sure.
they would travel.
Meet you there in the next city.
Yeah,
How cool. And that's gotta be great for you. So that you already have a leg up, you're not as worried about these people as you are onboarding the newer people.
right.
And I'm sure I'm like many people, that first sort of came to Glenn's awareness of Glenn's music through, Sonic Youth and the involvement of Lee Ronaldo and Thurston Moore. Was that a common occurrence, or how did that sort of work, with Glenn and throughout the time, and obviously the rising popularity of alternative music through the 90s and stuff? Like, what was, how, in terms of what, what you can share, how did he feel about that? Or what was sort of his take on people coming to his music through that entry point?
Yeah, a lot of the players came through Sonic Youth. Oddly enough, I came to his music through Tin Machine, which is probably blasphemy, but yeah, he kind of had the love-hate relationship with Sonic Youth.
I would
as
imagine.
as long-term friendships are complicated, but he kind of, sometimes he felt like they ripped him off. Sometimes he felt like, they brought attention to him. It was complicated. At one point, there was a lawsuit. It's a whole thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. I didn't know about any legal proceedings. But.
Yeah, they over mechanical royalties. But
Yeah.
these things are complicated. But I think the last meeting with Thurston was a pleasant one. So I think that's a good thing.
It's incredible. I mean, I would have to imagine, there's no one story, or there's no one sort of feeling towards things like that, where, where does influence begin and plagiarism begin, between these types of ideas, but also conceptually. I mean, it's the type of thing too, if it's, there's a certain legalese around, record labels and IP and this, things like these types of terminology, but just in general, the idea of, like you said, dissonance and unison. I mean, it sort of makes its way across a lot of genres, but this sort of atonal guitar music, I think Sonic Youth, had a pop rock sort of sensibility and an ambition towards commercializing, their output as a band that I'm sure was very different than what Glenn was interested in.
Right. If he had wanted to go in a pop direction, he could have. He made the decision to go in a more compositional direction, and actually wrote for orchestra for a while.
Wow.
Not as much as he would have liked to, but so he could have gone in that direction, but that was his decision not to. So
sure. No, I mean, and these are artistic, creative decisions that, what I mean, that don't have to be, analyzed or defended. I mean, it makes sense, that we're just creatively where artists are drawn to, to write, and to create music for. But it's good to know that there was some kind of acrimony, or there was some kind of, pleasantries at points. Cause I'm sure, like I said, there seemed to be a lot written. I don't know if it came directly from the band or just through music journalism of the time, of sort of couching what the world where Sonic Youth came from was, credit was given to Glenn and his early ensembles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for better or worse, there was the recognition. It'd be, in my mind, be 10 times worse if there was no acknowledgement of it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But in 2014, Glenn was playing in Paris. He was doing this solo thing, and he was on a bill with Thurston, and we hung out, and it was all good. So that's kind of how the note it ended on.
That's awesome.
And his relationship with Lee was always pretty good. So that wasn't an issue. And I still have contact with Lee sometimes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing, in terms of guitar experimental music. I feel like the Sonic Youth was a good gateway drug for a lot of suburban white teenagers in the 90s. I think Nirvana probably opened the door to a lot of ears for different types of music. And then, if you were so inclined, the Sonic Youth rabbit hole could then pull you away from things like the Doors or Jimi Hendrix, and you could go down this other kind of, if you're looking for feedback guitar music, there's other places to find it outside of the classic rock channels.
Yeah.
At least that was my experience that I found. Like, what else sounds like this? How do I sort of make sense of this noisy guitar thing, and finding the, I remember early on being a teenager and, looking at like Interview Magazine and finding things like Cecil Taylor. I'm like, oh, okay. There's, what does experimental jazz look like? Or what is, these trying to find different, just, pulling at any resources, again, sort of pre-internet. There wasn't a lot of information.
Right.
But and then the Robert Longo artwork, I think, was also very captivating. That was what was that symphony for? What was that? That was the Ascension.
Right? That was the Ascension part. Yeah. All of the Ascensions. In fact, he did the artwork for. And Robert has always been very supportive of Glenn's music. He did the original Ascension, and then in 2010 we did Ascension the sequel, and then the third Ascension was released posthumously. But Robert did the covers for all of them. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. In 2008, when the economy crashed, we stopped getting gigs for number 13 because it's an expensive piece, And so Glenn made the decision to go back to the Ascension format for guitars, bass, and drums. So we started doing shows for that. And it kind of started with, we were asked to do this Steve Reich 70th birthday show. And so he wrote lesson number 3, which was a tribute to Steve Reich. And then it sort of grew from there into the Ascension, the sequel. And we kind of did it with some people who were friends of mine and who were doing the 100 guitar piece because we were already, over in Europe. The show was in London, and we were doing the 100 guitar piece in Belgium. And so we did it with some people who were already over there with us, and that kind of grew into the new ensemble.
Oh, how cool. This, I'm trying to think, the Steve Reich birthday celebration, was that where was that at? Do you remember?
It was at, was it the Barbican?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I went to one of the nights. I think, were there several nights of programming for that? I
think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I saw there was one evening, I think that was like Dan Deacon and Braxton and a few other players. I think that was a very kind of brutalist building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in London there. Oh, that's interesting. The what was I thinking of? So then with the smaller group, it was easier. It was more affordable, or more budgetary friendly to be able to play live.
Yeah.
And how do you find, or what was your time in terms of time spent composing and writing versus performing, and how was that sort of split up, or where do you feel like how was that weighted out?
We spent more time performing than he did composing, the way anybody does. And he would compose them and I would copy the parts. because he would compose onto graph paper, and then I would copy them into first Encore, and then it switched to Sibelius. I would convert it into staff notation.
Oh, that's incredible. And would other people write to request to perform it, like to put their own groups together? I mean, I guess that's a common occurrence, in the classical or written, sheet music world, where anybody could perform these pieces.
No, not the guitar pieces. We
Okay.
maintained the exclusive right to perform the guitar pieces, and I still do.
Okay.
But
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me about that. Yeah, how does that work versus other types of music?
Yeah, in classical music, you have to do a score rental and get permission. You can't just like do a cover.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but people would commission chamber ensemble pieces, and those we allow score rentals if they don't have an exclusive. It depends on what the original deal was.
Okay.
But yeah, people would commission chamber ensemble pieces
to perform with their groups.
Yeah.
And Glenn wouldn't necessarily perform with them.
Right.
That's interesting. It's coming from a punk band sort of world. It's all feels very, very suit and tie oriented. but it's great though. But I understand it's protection and it's rights, and it's a way of being compensated for your work.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you just about some of the more experimental guitar shapes. I know there's the one neck with two bodies that he had performed. Were there other experiments, or were these things that he was commissioning or he was building?
These were harmonics guitars. They're designed to bring out the higher order harmonics. He originally built them for 2x4s. They were like 6 foot long 2x4s, and there was a bridge in the middle, and you would play with a slide. I don't know how much you know about the harmonic series, but
no, I don't know that much about it.
Well, basically, like when you hear a note, the overtones you hear, there's math to them. There's
right.
Okay, the first note you hear is the octave that divides the wave in half. The second one divides the wave into thirds, or the third tone divides the wave into thirds. The fourth divides the wave into quarters, and so on and so on. And the more complex the fraction, the more dissonant the interval. If you take the first 30 or so of those, and you take out the octave redundancies, and you kind of round them off, you get the 12 tones of Western music. But the series keeps going into infinity. And when he did his Symphony number 3, that was written for the first 127 intervals of the harmonic series. And he built custom made instruments to play those. Some of them were harmonics guitars. Some of them were harpsichords that were actually tuned to these notes. I still have the harpsichords. They're in a state of disrepair, but I do still have them.
Wow. That's incredible. And was he building these himself, or he was having other people build them or augment them?
He had somebody else build the harpsichords, yeah, but he built the harmonics guitars. I have actually just built some harmonics guitars. I have a project called Egregious Harmonics, where I'm recreating some of these instruments and doing my own sort of variations on them. But yeah, I've just built some.
Oh, cool. Oh, I'm sure there's a interest out there in the world of gear and boutique gear. I mean, on the reverb world, I'm sure you're familiar with all of this stuff. Seems people can never get enough of it. The more niche, then the more unique it is. So there's an audience for it out there. For gear, which brings me to the idea of pedals and effects. I mean, I know in the 100 guitars there was no effects, and it makes complete sense why. It's just guitar straight into amp. But what was there ever in his pieces or in his writing or his performances? How did he sort of look at those, or treat the idea of effects pedals or distortion or delays? I mean, any of this kind of stuff.
He wasn't into it.
Dealt with? Not at all. Okay.
No. He was into harmony. That was his primary interest.
Got it. But not even then the polyharmonic pedals or anything like that. These octave pedals or other types of things. That was no, because okay. And then I guess the other question then is then amps as well. Was there a preference to a type of sound in terms of distortion or things that would bring out the harmonies in terms of like what kind of gear? Because just as like every guitar player, I'm a gear nerd.
He usually just usually used Fender Twins with the clean sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about the distortion. It wasn't about the tone in that sort of regard.
No.
Solid state versus tube or any of that kind of stuff.
Not really. I mean, the Twin is tube, but
sure.
No, it was about, the harmony and not about the gear.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. When you see those photos of him with the specific guitars, it's like, ooh, okay. The mind wanders, but it wasn't necessarily, because I think I remember some of the stuff it was saying, like, it was like no semi-hollow body guitars, all solid body guitars. And that didn't matter if they're humbuckers or single coils.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
With the ensemble, he preferred more neutral sounding guitars, but he didn't necessarily like distinctive sounding guitars like Les Pauls or Telecasters. But
what's an example of a neutral sounding guitar? What do you mean, like?
What like did the cheaper the better, like a Teisco Del Rey or a Harmony? He loved the cheap stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. How fun. Yeah, no, it makes sense too, because then they become tools. It's not about the fetishization of a particular instrument or a builder or wood or something. It's just, these are the delivery methods.
Right.
They should be cheap. And then what about for yourself? I mean, in your own playing, obviously it's very different than the Glenn pieces, but in terms of I'll start with gear and then we'll get into writing and the creative sort of side of it too. But I mean, what do you prefer? Or what have you grown, to sort of like around gear as a guitar player yourself?
I've had the same Les Paul since I was 14. I bought it about a month before Appetite for Destruction broke and paid $750 for it, which would have been double a month later.
Wow.
Yeah. And I tend to like Marshalls, but lately I tend to like something I can carry on the subway.
Yeah. I know gone are the days of the 412s, right? I mean, when was the last time you had a 412 at a gig or saw anybody with a 412 at a gig? I mean, there's a handful of big guys that can pay somebody to haul them around, but
and then they put it on feel.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, I think, in general, I mean, I've harped about this on the podcast before, so listeners will know this is my soapbox for it, but concerts in general are just so much quieter now. I don't think it's just because I've gone deaf. I think it's literally the rooms, people are requiring those rooms to be much quieter than they used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot more, starting in the 90s, there was a lot more consciousness about volume.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I get it. Everyone should be safe and protect their ears. But for those of us who prefer to live on the edge a little bit more, it'd be nice if we had the option of hearing loud guitar. I feel like it's sort of one of those things. Like, you can always make it quieter with earplugs, but I can't make it louder.
You can always turn up your hearing aid,
Maybe that's it. That's what we need to have a section for that, for the real noisos. Okay, here comes you get a pair of in-ear monitors so you can really blast yourself with them. That would be a fun device to market to people. And then, tell me, obviously, you are a prolific player and writer in your own right, but tell me a little bit about where you're at now with the pieces. And I know you have your own label. How have the solo shows been going and the writing and what are you working on at the moment?
I'm working on another egregious harmonics with the instruments I just built. I'm also writing my own regular solo stuff and working on releasing this Symphony No. 4.
Incredible. Tell me a little bit about, I mean, where does improvisation fit into your writing? I mean, how much is formally written and how much is there an improvisational element to it as well?
There's no improvisation.
No improvisation. Wow.
I've done a few shows with people in New York that are improvised because they asked me to, but that's not really what I'm interested in. I'm interested in interested in coming up with parts that I can't play and then figuring out how to play
working
them.
towards.
The thing with improv is you can only play what you can play, and I want to play what I can't play. So that's interesting.
Therein lies the progression of progressive music, right? To really progress yourself as a player and as an artist to right beyond what you're able to. I've found that just in, even in like the pop, and punk sort of writing of things, that I've been able to do is in the rehearsals or in the writing sessions. It's like, okay, this sounds really good, but it's hard to play. And then I know I'm in a good place. It's one of those things where I think when I was younger, I'm like, I would run the other direction and go into a big cowboy chord. But now it's like, wait, no, stay there. Don't, like it's going to sound like shit for maybe a few weeks or a few months, depending how much I work at it. But then it's always the thing and then, and then I'll find myself, or at least this was in the process when we were touring and recording and touring back to back for years. I'd be somewhere, playing on the stage and I'd go to that part, and instead of sweating or feeling like I was going to pee my pants, I would just go right into it. And not because I was such a great player, but because I had just woodshedded and I just ground it out for, I spent all those months doing it, and I could get it in front of on a stage. And it was like, I had my own little moment of celebration that had nothing to do with the audience. Like, look at that weird chord. I just went right into it.
Yeah, to me, that's what makes performing the most rewarding is all the preparation that goes into it. I think that the longer the preparation, the more satisfying it is.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's true, but it's one of those kind of unsung, unflashy sort of parts of performance. Because it's not like it's not always I guess that side isn't necessarily what's documented. It's just all about the final product,
right,
of it. Were you ever into the shreddy sort of, between Berkeley and then into other music like obviously, the sounds you create are, beyond register, beyond playability of most players, but in terms of like the Eddie Van Halen or that 80s sort of schooling of this type of, I don't know, it's almost like Baroque playing. Did that ever enter into your repertoire or playing or interest?
I was never into the shrapnel records scene. That was kind of gross to me. It was like or something. I was not into it.
It was almost became like a workout sort of thing. Like these were like guys who would go to the gym or guys who were on like the football team, and now they picked up guitars in between pumping iron. Then they would play some complicated tapping riffs or something. And again, it's like there's so little to me from again, it's one person's opinion. There's very little art in this. There's a lot of showiness, and there's a lot of hair and glitter and grease, but very little art. I don't know.
Yeah.
How these things happen.
I was glad to see that kind of go away.
It makes a comeback every once in a while. I made the mistake of subscribing to Guitar World a couple months back. It was cheap. It was $12 for 6 years or something. I don't know what I have. They just kept sending it. And I would every month I'm like, wait, now there's kids. Now there's like this 22-year-old kid that looks like he's in like Motley Crue or something, every once in a while. Or what is it? Polyphony? There's these weird kind of like, it's like, oh, we're King Crimson fans. We're this. And I would try to listen to it. I'm like, I don't hear any of that. Yeah. You guys all look like you're sort of androgynous, like new metal people. But God bless them. Good for them. Definitely. It feels like there must be something about the mechanical part of that guitar playing or something that sells equipment. Is the best I can tell.
Well, that's the thing. It's more about selling equipment than it is. That's one of the things I don't like about the obsession with pedals. It's like, it's all about selling you something. It's not about teaching people music, And I think it's gotten to the point where young players, I don't know if they know the difference between creating something and buying something. It's just about how many pedals you can have, how much gear you can have,
Yeah. No, I mean, I felt like I rode the line of that so often, where I really enjoyed the pedal the pedal playing experience or bringing with them. But I had a methodology, but again, this isn't the stuff that gets talked about. This isn't the sexy part of it all, where it was like, these are tools. Like I need to be able to have a pedal work across an entire set. Like I can't just have a pedal that does the one sound. Like that's where I stayed away from choruses, flangers, phasers. Because as soon as you put that whoosh, big envelope filter on something, I'd be so bummed if I heard that, okay, here's our next song. Wow. Every song's doing the big flanger thing. So I was always trying to find, it was mostly turned out to be, distortion and delays. I think was most of what my pedal was made up of.
Right.
Pedal boards, versions of that. And I was like, okay, well, at least it's the playing is just being, there's more of me out there, which is, I think I enjoyed the maximalism part of that. Like let's split the signal into 3 different frequency ranges, and let's delay this one, and let's compress this one, and let's really, put a giant gain stage on that one, and we get something different out of it. But hopefully it's all still sounds like a guitar being played by a person.
Right. Yeah. The more stuff you put on it, the less it sounds like that big electric guitar, which is what I still like.
Yeah. No, it's good. But yeah, it is funny. But it's hard to sell once, like you said, once you bought the one guitar, you were in it. Yeah. So I'm so tempted. What year Les Paul is it? You said it came out, you got it right before Appetite, which was 89. So is it late 80s?
Well, it's a 70. It's a 70.
Oh, it's a 7.
But I bought it in 87. Yeah.
Oh, got it. But it's a 1970 Gibson Les Paul.
Yeah. Oh,
that's interesting, because that's right before Norlin bought it, and that was right, and they only reintroduced the Les Paul in 69. So there's that fine line of outside of the 50s, those kind of coveted, right? The 50s, whatever, blues lawyer guitars. And then before Norlin got him and put the flute and everything in there, right? That seems to be 69. I don't know when Norlin came in, 71, 72.
It's got the volute. Yeah.
It does have the flute?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's right in there. I might be off. I'm definitely not good. I have that love-hate sort of relationship with gear as well, where I'm always like, I think I know something, and then the best way to show you don't know anything is start talking about it. God, I don't know what I'm talking about. Awesome. Well, Reg, this has been so great. Thanks for nerding out with me for this time. Let's tell people again how to contribute to the Kickstarter and how to follow you and sort of keep up with everything that you're doing.
You can find a link to the Kickstarter from systemsneutralizers.com. And there I have my e-commerce site there. GlennBranca.com is still up, regbloor.com. And I'm on all the things. I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky and YouTube and TikTok and whatever else.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I hope to see you in Los Angeles again.
And Bandcamp, yes.
In the future. Oh yeah, Bandcamp, of course. Yeah, well, I'll have links to all of those in the show notes, so everybody can go click on those.
I'm trying to get back out to LA actually, so I will keep you posted.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Keep me in the loop. I'd love to help out if I can, or just go as a fan and just come in, come see the show. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Reg. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
How rad was that, Reg? Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so great to talk and chat, chop it up. Everybody go to regbloor.com to get a link to the Kickstarter. It's on there, kickstarter.com, projects Reg Bloor. You can search it up. You can find it. It's easily discoverable. This is to release Glenn Branca's Symphony No. 4. You can also find her on the Instagram at reg_bloor. And she's also on the Bandcamp, where you can buy her music, and it's awesome. I had a really fun time. We didn't even get into it in the interview, but I opened up for her in LA at Zebulon. Gosh, what was that, 2 years ago? No, it was so fun. It was so great. I was stoked to get to help set up that show, and it was really fun. But you can go to regbloor.bandcamp.com to buy her music there. Go to glennbranca.com, GLENNBRANCA.com. And thanks so much for sticking with me, for supporting cool, weirdo, underground music. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you. I hope everybody's doing good in the holidays. Call your friends, hug your loved ones, all that good stuff, and support mom and pop independent artists and creators and people out there when you're buying gifts for friends. Fuck the corporations. They don't care about us. We shouldn't care about them. Don't support them, as much as you can. Whatever's in your power to do. I know. I like living on the cheap. And sometimes the corpo plastic shit's the cheap shit, and it's what you got to get through, what you need to get through the day. But whenever I can, try to put some money towards something good to pass around the goodwill and the creative support. So where you can, do that, and stay safe. Bye.
I don't know if you're familiar with Tony's work, but he does these projections. And so he was going to project Bowie's face onto these giant orbs. It was going to be shown at Expo 2000. And Glenn did like these sequence basic tracks, and I played guitar over it. And Bowie was reading Tony's cut up poetry.